This presentation is called Shifting Perspectives. It aims to work upon developing our understanding of children's behaviour and how we can respond to children to best support their emotional development and well-being. Why do we want to think about shifting our perspectives of children's behaviour and our responses to it? Firstly, it helps us to understand children and their behaviour. Secondly, it helps children better understand their own emotions. Thirdly, it creates a space that is less judgmental of children and parenting. And lastly, it allows us to ask questions about what may be happening for a child and how we can support them. This can have a positive impact on their development, self-esteem, and their future achievements. So what do we want to achieve in our relationships with children? We want to build positive connections. We want to develop understanding of behaviours and for children to feel understood. And we want children to build a positive self-image that can support their development. The next slide will look at shifting our mindset and how we can think about children and their behaviour. Here we look at traditional values of children and their behaviour versus research-based and therapeutic approaches. Rather than expecting that children should do what they are told, we shift towards believing we should support children to understand behaviours that are appropriate and safe. Rather than believing that children who do not behave properly are a reflection of the way that they are parented, we can shift towards understanding that many aspects of life affect the way a child behaves. Tantrums and displaying a range of emotions are normal and healthy elements of childhood development. Rather than sticking to the belief that children should always see an adult's words and views as final, we can shift to a belief that children have the right to question adults, particularly when they feel uncomfortable or unsafe. Rather than believing that if children do not behave as we expect them to, they should be punished to prevent them from repeating the behaviour, we can shift to a belief that we should support children to understand their emotions and behaviour and to recognise the natural consequences of them. Rather than sticking to the belief that punishment is an effective method for teaching children how to behave, we can shift to an understanding that punishments can have a negative impact upon a child's self-esteem and create further problems with their behaviour in the future. The language choices that we make when talking to or about children can make a big difference to how we perceive that child and their behaviour. We will now look at shifting the language that we use when discussing children. Language choices matter and can have a huge impact on how a child views themselves and a situation. Instead of saying "be quiet," you could try using "could you use a quieter voice?" Instead of saying "it isn't that hard," we try using "you can do hard things." Instead of "we don't talk like that," try using "please use kind words." Instead of "do I need to separate you?" try using "do you need some space?" Instead of using "stop crying," try saying "it is okay to cry, you must be feeling upset." Instead of using "you are fine," try using "how are you feeling?" Instead of asking "do you need help?" try saying "I'm here to help if you would like me to." Here we look at why language choices matter in the words that we use to describe children. On the left we have a list of descriptions that can have negative associations, and on the right is a list of alternative descriptions that are more positive. Instead of bossy, we can say a leader. Rather than saying wild, we can use the word energetic. Instead of dramatic, we can use expressive. Instead of clingy, we can consider a child to be loving. And instead of shy, we can think of a child as reflective. Changes such as these can really alter the way a child is perceived, discussed, and therefore how adults respond to them. This creates a space of greater understanding of the child and affects how the child feels about themselves, regardless of whether they are hearing those words used or not. Another language choice that we often use when talking about children is attention seeking. It can be really helpful to rephrase this from attention seeking to attention needing or connection seeking. Traditionally, children are often described as attention-seeking when they are behaving in more challenging or demanding ways. They are sometimes perceived to be manipulating adults for their own gain. When we shift to think of behaviour as communication, what we are often seeing is a want or need for connection with a familiar adult. Children may be seeking a sense of stability, understanding, and closeness. We are now going to look at shifting from time out to time in. Time out has been a popular tool used by schools, settings and parents as a way of managing behaviour for many years. It involves removing a child from an area and placing them on their own for a set period of time with the aim that they will reflect upon what has happened and try to get them to stop behaving like that again in the future. This table outlines some of the difficulties that can present from using this approach and then looks at the benefits of using an alternative approach known as a time in. During a time out, connection time is taken away or a child is removed from something that they want to be involved in. Children either become more upset or they stop behaving a certain way so that they can have their connection or activity back. The problems that can stem from this include the fact that withdrawing adult presence and care can cause anxiety for a child. It can be very isolating and shaming. It shows children that we are not willing to accept or support certain feelings and emotions, and a child's frustration or upset may actually increase, and they might choose not to display it and bottle it up in the future. It is seen as a punishment for behaving a certain way. When we look at using a time-in method instead, there are several benefits that can be seen. Time-ins ensure that a child remains safe. It allows space and understanding for all emotions. It encourages connection, empathy, and feelings of belonging. It allows children space to calm down with the support of an adult. It promotes feelings of trust in the adult, which can benefit discussion about behaviours and safe ways of managing emotions together. It is not something done to a child, but experienced with them, and it teaches children skills that help them when they experience challenges. So what does a time-in look like? During a time-in, a child is in a safe space and is supported by a trusted adult. They are not left alone. The child is given the time that they need to calm down and to express their feelings. Safety is a priority here, and if the child is going to potentially harm themselves or others, they should be directed to a space away from others and with minimal hazards nearby. A carpet or area with cushions and soft furnishings works well. The adult supporting the child is calm, patient, and non-judgmental. The child can be given physical comfort if they need it. Some children will prefer to be given space, and that is fine too. The supporting adult should remain nearby and sitting on their level where possible. There is no set timer for when the time-in finishes. It comes to a natural close when the child is calm and able to move from the space safely. Following a time-in, it is possible to take part in reflection time with the child. This should only happen once the child is calm. During the time-in itself, language should be kept to a minimum to allow the child to find their calm and not be heightened further. A discussion can be had with the child where you talk about what happened using explanation and factual language in a calm tone. You can then have a reflection discussion where you discuss what could have helped in that situation or how it could have been handled differently to prevent the child from becoming upset or acting in an unsafe way. The child can then be supported in repairing anything that has happened as a natural consequence of their behaviour. This could include helping to tidy up items that they have knocked over or asking a hurt friend if they are okay. It is worth noting that due to some children's needs, this level of discussion and reflection will not be possible and may need to be simplified, or they are supported in returning to their play and learning without having a reflection. The importance of boundaries. In being respectful and understanding of children's emotions, it is still of vital importance that children are made aware of boundaries. Children need to be made aware of behaviour that is not acceptable or is unsafe. This should always be discussed when they are calm. The discussion should be non-judgmental and should avoid words such as naughty and bad. These labels affect a child's self-esteem and confidence and can lead to further difficulties with behaviour. Some example phrases will be shared on the next slide. Here are some example phrases. The amount of wording used will be dependent upon the developmental stages and needs of the child. We might use phrases such as "hitting is finished" or "bricks down." "I can see that you are feeling angry. It is not okay to hit your sister." "When you are feeling upset, you threw the blocks. It is not safe to throw blocks. Shall we pick up the blocks together?" "I won't let you kick me. I'm going to move a bit further away until your feet are safe." Saying these phrases in a firm but calm, low arousal tone allow the child to understand the boundary without feeling judged, embarrassed, or unsafe. When we stop and reflect about our own feelings as adults, it can help us to further understand children and their reactions and behaviours. At times in your life, either as an adult or a child, when you have felt upset, angry, or worried about something that may have seemed silly to others, how would you have wanted others to react to you? We want to show children the same level of understanding and compassion that we would want for ourselves and our own feelings. We want to open the door for children and allow them to communicate with us. We do not want to shut the door on their feelings.